Scott, I can't hear you. Good morning, all. Lovely to be here today. Thank you so much for joining us on our webinar about Africa. It's an entire continent we're going to talk about in under an hour. So we're going to get right to it. It's going to be straight on. There's a lot of information-packed, practical tips about how to grow your sales, how to grow your exports, your business, your brand in Africa using online development tools like websites, like online marketing, like e-commerce. The continent is absolutely on the cusp, but just ready and going for it. So thank you again for joining us, and let's get started. We should start though with introductions. Just a quick sort of few little introductions. So my name is Susanna Hardy, and I'm Chief Content Officer at IBT Online. And I'm delighted to be here. And I'm with my colleague, Rita Benhada, who's from Morocco. She's actually sitting in Casablanca today, and has a deep, strong African heritage, and has therefore a lot to tell you about the continent itself. She's one of our senior online marketing managers and does fantastic work for us, for our clients looking in Africa. We are so delighted that Scott has joined us as well. Scott Blackland is on the board of directors of NADEC and was previously the chairman of the NADEC for the sort of Washington, Virginia area, and is based just outside of Washington now. And Scott's going to tell us a little bit about the role of NADEC and how exporters can really plug into the NADEC system and get their voices heard throughout. So that's us as people. As I said, we're delighted to be here today. On that quick word, perhaps just on IBT Online as a company. So we're a U.S. company. We also have a Canadian company. We are 100% focused on delivering websites and online marketing best in class for our clients who are normally corporations. We've been in the business for quite a long time, 2002, I think, which makes us pretty ancient in the online world. And we have offices in a couple of different places, and we're also very, very pleased to have designed and managed a series of programs called the Online Global Programs in many U.S. states and Canada, which are really focused on the sort of mid-cap exporter, and they allow you to have those business development online tools that you really need in 2023 and beyond. A lot of those programs are eligible for export grants from a lot of different states. So, you know, we can talk about that if you want, or you can send us a question if you want to have a little bit more information on that. So the agenda today, so getting straight into it, as I said, we are attacking a full continent in under an hour, so we're going to get right on to it. So Scott's going to talk to us first about NADEC, about the role that NADEC plays and how it can help exporters. And then Rita's going to tell us sort of a big landscape picture overview of the online environment in Africa. But I'm going to drill down about the websites, how websites are used in Africa, what they look like, how they function, the pros and cons. And Rita's then going to talk again about the online marketing. In other words, how do you, once someone finds you in Africa through your website, how do you actually engage with your prospects and get the buyer's journey started? And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about e-commerce in Africa, which is just absolutely, really very strong growth and just on sort of the cusp of getting really, really interesting on that. And then we've saved some time at the end for Q&A. Please do drop your questions in to the chat box. We would love to have some engagement with you. And now is, you've taken the time out of your day, which we really appreciate. So now is the time also to really just, ask the questions that are been perplexing you about doing business and growing your brand and exports into the African market. With that, I'm going to start and pass the message over to Scott. We had some microphone issues earlier, but hopefully Scott can chime in now. So Scott, if you have a moment.
Well, I hope that if I can't be seen, I could be heard. Can you hear me?
Yeah, oh good, it's perfect.
All right. Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you all who are attending to explore this very exciting topic. Just by way of background, the NADEC is the National Association of District Export Councils. It is the oldest and probably the only public-private partnership between the business community and the United States government going back to the 1970s. It has a decidedly small, medium enterprise focus. It is meant to advise and educate the policymakers and the policy execution resource people within the US government on the special needs of the American export community in the small, medium enterprise space. The National Association of District Export Councils is comprised of 61 localized district export councils. Some of the larger states, such as California and Texas, have more than one district export council, whereas the rest are pretty much evenly scattered throughout the country on the state-by-state basis. It is focused very heavily, again, on the export needs of the US business community in the SME space. It is a vibrant, interactive community, and we work very closely with the US government resources in promoting exports, and we also help harmonize the efforts of state economic development resources directly for the companies and also coordinating with the US government. So in sum, the NADEC is an amplifying platform for the concerns and the objectives and the education needs of the SME community as we try to increase the American footprint globally.
Scott, I really like that picture of NADEC, of the Export Council, sort of as an amplifier as well. It's a great image. That's really also. Before we move on, I wanted to ask actually the audience as well if they already know their local NADEC, their local DEC, their District Export Council. Are you already are you already a member? Do you engage with them? Are you looking at them, or have you never heard of them before? Are you brand new to this? Let us know. And well, first of all, many thanks for all of you clicking so readily on your mouse. We appreciate that. And just to give you some feedback, Scott, about 40% of our listeners today are already in touch with their local DEC, which is great. Many of the others are very interested in that, so that's great. We're delighted to see that. Thank you all so much for doing that. I'm going to close the poll and then turn over to Rita to talk to us a little bit about the sort of Africa's online environment, the entire continent, in just a few minutes. So Rita, for you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott and Susanna. Well, hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. Let's dive right in and start with a big picture view of Africa from an online point of view. So there are a couple of characteristics that we think are worth highlighting for anyone looking to set up website or online marketing. First of all, as you may know, Africa is big, not just geographically spread out over 54 countries, but also in terms of population. So it's 1.5 billion. And it's also digital divide. So it has poor infrastructure, so few reliable landlines. This makes internet and mobile phones even more important. So even here, the take-up of internet is slowed by lack of infrastructure. Nevertheless, while Africa has the lowest level of any continent for internet take-up, about 45% of the population have internet access. But it's also the fastest growing, some 200 million people added every year. Internet access is often viewed as the highest priority for a family. Before you buy a car or even sometimes get good electricity in your home, you want internet access. Then the next map highlights two things. One, that Africa overall has a low internet access rate, as seen by mobile connectivity. So North Africa overall mobile connectivity is 112%. North America, sorry, is mobile connectivity is 112% compared to that to Middle Africa of 58%. The second thing the map highlights is the variety within Africa. Basically, there are 4 areas of decent internet access, and this corresponds to Africa's highest GDP countries. So Northern Africa, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, etc., they have good internet at 101%. Western Africa, dominated by Nigeria, is okay at 96%. And then we have Western Africa as well, like that's Kenya, Tanzania, etc., that at a similar 1005 level. And then South Africa is a very solid 179%. So the map of Africa on the right shows this regional variation as well as the growth of internet access over time. You can see the countries turning blue, the 4 corners of Africa, if you like, so north, east, west, and south. Internet penetration rate of the continent grew to 565 million by end 2022. That's according to Statista. That's 6 times more than just 10 years prior. But it still leaves Africa at an average of 43% versus a global average of 66%. And when people do connect to the internet, it is the mobile phone. It's by the mobile phone. As nearly 70% of web traffic is via mobile, Africa has the highest percentage of traffic via mobile in the world. This underscores our message about mobile first market. And now let's take a look at some of these key markets. So I'm going to start with Morocco. So it's a relatively small country compared to other countries in Africa, but it has a huge opportunities. We have listed here on the left some of the key characteristics of Morocco that are important when you are thinking of the online environment. So the fact that a quarter of the population is under 18, it helps explain why there are early adopters of technology. As you can see in the diagram, there are more mobile phone connection than people. This is something we're going to see throughout Africa. And while 88% of the population are online, 56% are active social media users. When we look at South Africa, we see a similar picture. Again, a so-called mobile first market. It's a bit more mature than Morocco, but again, more mobile phones than people. And with really good internet access across the country. 72% of the population are online and 43% use social media. So South Africans spend a lot of time online, an average of 8 hours a day, of which 2.5 on social media. Now Nigeria. So Nigeria has the highest GDP in Africa and also the largest population. It has 122.5 million internet users, when internet penetration stood at 55.4%. Nigeria was home to 31.60 million social media users, equating to 14.3% of the total population. Mobile phone internet usage is particularly popular. The country is considered a mobile-first market where infrastructure and online usage development skipped wide-ranging desktop PC adoption and went straight to mobile internet usage via inexpensive smartphones. With more than 3/4 of Nigerian web traffic being generated via smartphones, Nigeria ranks second on the list of African countries based on the share of traffic via mobile. And there's a good uptake of online wallets as well, notably for e-commerce. And in general, e-commerce is growing well throughout Africa. So there are some notable local champions, such as Jumia. So basically, Jumia is it's like the Amazon of Africa. But we also wanted to highlight how much Nigerian resorts to the internet to discover or check out brands. Almost 50% of the internet users, so nearly 40% of the population, they go online to research brand before buying. So that's a very interesting point. And then we're going to end with Kenya. So there were 17.86 million internet users in Kenya in January 2023. So Kenya's internet penetration rate stood at 32.7% of the total population, at the start of 2023. What's good to know is that the internet users are growing fast, and that shows that there is a huge potential in Kenya. Just as an example, Kenya increased by 1.3 million in internet users between 2022 and 2023. So it's growing fast. And then just to summarize, Africa online environment is definitely mobile first. So people access the internet via their mobile phones. Remember, South Africa has nearly twice the number of mobile phones than people. Internet access varies widely across the continent, but is strong in those areas that most of you are doing business. So North, East, West, and South. So the countries with the strongest GDP. Also, e-commerce is growing at double-digit number, and we will circle back to that later, including strong local champions, one of them that I mentioned earlier, Jumia, both for online marketplaces and for online payments. So internet is seen as a priority for your business, education, and daily life, from banking to getting paid. So most importantly, we want to emphasize that internet users in Africa are enthusiastic. They use and they like technology. They check out your website and your online presence, and they appreciate they can find your company online. So to answer the question of why exporters need online tools, especially for markets like Africa, is because your prospective clients are all online. So the first takeaway from today is that your Africa prospects are online, and as an exporter, we recommend that you meet your client where they are through your website and social media. Now I'll hand back to Susanna to drill down more on that, what kind of website work well in Africa.
Rita, thank you very much. That was great. I think it's just amazing to put all that information about an entire continent. So we really did focus on the online side and those bigger markets, as Rita said, the four corners, as it were, of Africa, the north, south, east, and west. And the big conclusions, the big message is this is a very, very mobile first markets. And that has a lot of repercussions about how you build websites and how you go online for marketing. So how you're found by your website, how you use that tool, and then how you engage with your prospective buyers through your social media. So the good news is that it's a very familiar environment. Google has by far the leading market share, over 90% market share across most of the places in Africa that you'd be interested in. They use YouTube, Facebook. We know what mobile enablement means. So the good news is that when you are looking at your online business development tools to grow your sales in Africa, you know the tools that you need. They do have to be adapted, but you know at least the tools are in your toolkit. The challenges, as Rita has said, the infrastructure is poor. Most people do not have landlines. They're going to their mobile phone, but even the mobile phone connections can be weak. 3G is usual, 4G is tough to find. Another challenge is language, and there's three big languages of Africa and business Africa: English, Arabic, lots of different kinds, and French. And so you have to choose between these three. And then, as Rita said, there's over 3,000 languages here, and there's some very, very large dominant ones, from Xhosa to Swahili, Bantu, and so on. So, you really have to make sure that you're on the right language for these websites. There are also a lot of sort of what I would call local references. So local references that can be important. And given the size of the continent, it's hard to make sure that you're making sure that you're really targeting and fixing in on certain areas. It's a very varied population, as Rita's also mentioned. Again, the local references can be difficult to really get right. And finally, the marketing is very specific in Africa. Because it's on the mobile phone, because it's very visual, not so much written, it can have a very different slant from your US marketing, being much more video, much more image concentrated, and perhaps a slightly simpler language, as most people will be seeing that if you're doing it in English, that's most people's second or third language. Now, the question we're often asked, and it's a very good question, is why can't I just use my US website? Why can't people find me if I use a US website? And in some ways they can, if they know your brand already, then they'll just put your brand in, your brand name, and they can find you. But if they don't already know you, then how will they find you if they don't know your name? They don't know your URL because they're searching on their Google, not your Google, not Google, Canada or Google USA. They're searching Google Nigeria, and it could well be in Igbo, or they're looking in Google South Africa, in Afrikaans. So how are they going to find you? It's not obvious at all. Search engines like Google, like Facebook, like Amazon, virtually a search engine as well, really, they're all localized. And what does that mean? It means that they put the local buyer, the prospective buyer, the searcher at the center of everything. So just because you think that your website is terribly relevant to them doesn't mean that it is. Doesn't mean that it's in the right language, that it's hosted in the right place, that it has the right domain name, that it's adapted design-wise for that market. All of those criteria, and I've listed 10 here on the right-hand side of this slide. All of those criteria are taken into account by search engines when they list to different websites as in terms of relevancy. So if you just have a US website and people don't know your brand yet, you are invisible internationally, and certainly to someone looking for your product sitting there in Kenya, they won't be able to find you if they don't know your name, unless you have a website that is relevant for them sitting in Kenya or wherever it is. So those are some of the things. Note that, adapted to local language is one out of the 10 criteria. A lot of the things are very technical: CMS, hosting, mobile enabled, multilingual navigation, and so on. I just wanted to highlight a couple of those little ones. We talked about mobile enablement, and mobile enablement is not just that you can see well on a mobile phone. It means that the entire website is built for being seen on a mobile first. And that means as well that it has to have the upload and download speed has to be really fast. You can't do more than 2 seconds, otherwise people turn off. And with poor internet connections as well as that, you need to make sure that your mobile enablement is really, really fast upload, easy to navigate. And the navigation on your mobile enabled website can be very different from your big PC US website. So again, these are all things to take into account when you're looking at your website. Build it first via the mobile side, and then build it out. That's our recommendation. That's how we would do it with our clients. And I just wanted to highlight these three again. There's one in French, which is for the Middle East markets. Sorry, for the African markets, the Francophonie markets. There's one for South Africa, and there's one for Kenya. One in the middle there for Kenya. All of them, well, especially the two that you see in the middle and on the left-hand side, have imagery which is relevant to the local market. The one that says corporate profile, that ICR, that's a picture of Johannesburg behind it, just for information. So again, these are just things that you can add to your website and your mobile to make sure that people can see it and say, yes, this is a website that is meant for me. It has the background is a picture of Johannesburg or Kenyan elephants, the Masai Mara. I mentioned briefly also domain names. Top level country domain names are what's in the URL of a website. So for example, our website, or let's say your website is uscompany.com. If you were a UK company, it would be ukcompany.co.uk. That's the top level domain name for the UK. For Africa, there are lots of different ones. And you can go for a country specific, like Morocco.co.ma, Nigeria.com.ng, or you can go for a broad continent one, and that actually works. .Africa. The example here on the slide is a company called distributors. We built them a .Africa website. And you'll note that we added a little sort of Ghanaian flag, just to, because it is Africa, but we wanted also to show you it is really targeting Ghana. And so we tried to sort of mix the two. Okay, they have a URL for all of Africa, and then they have this Ghanaian flag on the home site. So, and we're targeting on the hosting. You can sort of tilt the hosting a little bit to make sure that it is particularly fast and particularly targeted towards Ghana in this case. So again, these are things you can do to make sure that you are relevant to the local buyer and therefore seen as relevant by the search engines. And I guess that the point is that relevancy builds trust. And relevancy can also be in the form of imagery. And it can be in the form of saying, we are in Africa and have been doing business in Africa we know how to do business in Africa. So we were very pleased, for example, when Livestock Exporters Association and the LEA members said we are proud to have been in Africa for over a decade. Or Nomadic State of Mind, who sell these rope sandals, they added imagery which was relevant to the market they're targeting. ICR, again, I want to circle up, they have a WhatsApp number, which is on the that's really important. That's most relevant. The way people contact you is not going to be on their desktops. It's going to be through something like a WhatsApp number. It doesn't cost them anything. The network is good enough for it. They're not sitting at a desk. The WhatsApp works. That's how they want to contact you. And again, if you have a contact in, a local person in Africa, please make use of it. Put them on your website. Put a video, put a picture of them. All good things. So just in sort of summary, as it were, some of the best practices for African websites: the right URL, mobile first. Choose your language, English, French, Swahili. Make sure that the images are correct, valid, relevant. Put a WhatsApp number there too. You can get a business WhatsApp, it doesn't cost anything. Use social media, and Rita's going to be talking more about how to use social media. QR codes are really good too. They use African like QR codes, they use them a lot. I wanted to sort of just do a little tiny segue out though, because a lot of you, and we were talking with quite a few before, and a lot of you access the African markets via local distributors. And we've had our clients have had tremendous success with using their websites to find distributors and engage with distributors. And I wanted to give this a little case study. Here on this one, you can see that the company has put "Become a Distributor" on their homepage, right up at the top navigation bar. So it's, about us, the products, and right in the middle, become a distributor. It's one of the key things they want. It's not just the products, but they want the distributor. So that's interesting to put right there on the top of the nav bar. And then when you click that, it goes to a separate page, which is actually the URL for that page is, Amazon distributor, / distributor. And there's a whole page on it which will show where they have distributor, they're looking for it, and give the advantages of being a distributor for that company, including testimonials and things. And then finally on that page, you'll also have a very long contact form. This is not, when you have a contact form for your clients, they're really short. You want as little information as possible so that the clients or the prospective buyers will actually contact you. For a distributor, you could afford to ask them lots of questions. Make sure that they have a real engagement there. So again, it's when you're looking at your Africa thing, a lot of you go via distributors. Think about having a separate distributor page. So finally, then I just wanted to say, if Rita's takeaway was you need online business development tools, You need websites and online marketing to grow your exports, your business in today's world. Takeaway number 2 is use your online tools like a localized website as a sales rep. Think of it as your best sales tool. And if you've got a local guy in one of your countries, it's the perfect thing for them to use to make sure that your products are well marketed. Just as an aside, the online global programs that we talked about at the beginning of this webinar, a lot of they qualify for STEP grants and for the exporter grants in most US states as well as in Canada. So these are what we've designed, which have these grants available to build you these kinds of websites. So before I pass on to Rita to talk about online marketing, let me just ask, let me launch another poll. I've talked enough. I've talked enough. Let me launch a poll. Get you guys busy. If you'd like to learn more about the websites for Africa, about the online global programs, just let us know, and we can send you some resources, point you in the right direction. Send you an email or whatever, or send you a blog or links to where you can find out information. And just wanted to say thank you again for enthusiastic responding, a very engaged audience, which is what we love to have as well. And we're getting quite a few questions in. Thank you for those questions. We appreciate them. We are collecting them. All right, I'm going to close the poll and hand over to Rita to talk about online marketing.
Perfect. Thank you, Susanna. Okay, so let's dive into what you should consider when taking your digital marketing efforts to the next level with the goal to grow your traffic, engagement, and conversions globally. But first, I just want to start from the top and just remind ourselves that online marketing is a great way to bring brand awareness and build up the leads you need to convert to sales. Remember that online marketing is all about creating digital events, ads, posts, blogs, interactions, etc. Events that drive the buyer's journey. Africa is known for being proud of their heritage and valuing local connections and personal relationships. So whether you have a business presence on the ground, have developed a network of distributors, or indeed looking to create or expand your network, the key is to reach the right people with the right message and at the right time. So let's start from the people. So those people are what we're going to call your buyer persona or your ideal customer. So what is important to note, however, is your international buyer persona can differ from your domestic persona, especially in times like this. On this slide are a few questions you should ask yourself. Are there multiple buyer personas for my export markets? How do they find me? What do they care about? Here we have an interesting example of L'Oreal. So L'Oreal USA, we can see women are on the top floor, empowered, in charge, diverse. And then we have L'Oreal Morocco, that shows someone who is identifiable to the market or how Morocco women would identify themselves, strong and modern. And then the last one is L'Oreal South Africa. So this gives a different vibe, reflecting what the South African customer base would recognize themselves in. So more subtle, more diverse, and yet still in charge of their purchasing and ideal of beauty. So each buyer persona is clearly different, and the messaging is respectful of that. So when considering how to build a marketing strategy that will help guide your prospect through the buyer's journey, in Africa, you really cannot ignore the power of social media. So social media can be used to increase brand awareness, maximizing the time your persona spend online, but it can also be a critical tool to support your distributor and redirect buying ready prospective customers to them. So this type of lead generation, whether you gather leads via your website to then share them with your local representative, or whether you want to redirect buyers to their brick and mortar shop, social media is an incredibly powerful channel to build trust, engagement, and eventually generate tangible return on investment. So social media plus lead generation equals return on investment. And then a social media strategy is used in tandem with your other marketing efforts to effectively build brand awareness and connect with your audience where they want to be found. So here's an interesting chart which shows the percentage of B2B decision makers who use social media when researching new products or services to purchase. So per every marketing channel, social media requires a structured approach to ensure you're always reaching the right people with the right message at the right time. When your objective is to maximize return investment for the upcoming event, social media is really the moment to begin your engagement with the event and the attendees. It's a fantastic and informal manner to create connection and be noticed ahead of the event. So when deciding what content to create, your objective is to leverage the upcoming event to your advantage. This includes creating content that is relevant, on topic, tagging the event in your post, connect with other attendees via the chat that are linked to the event, promoting your attendance there, etc. So this here are two examples of consideration decision stage posts. Inviting users who have engaged with the page and we know have been on our localized website before to find the local distributors and engage with them. So either to ask them a question or to purchase the product. So having already built the trust as a brand, it's now time to offer a clear call to action on to the next step. And that next step should lead to another very clear opportunity for users to find you, whether you have a number of local options or you're collecting leads via your localized website. So before I hand back over to Susanna to look at e-commerce, I just want to quickly emphasize on a crucial piece of the social media effort, which is 1, always aligning your social media strategy to your business objectives. The second point that I'm going to highlight is a little bit more technical, but I feel like companies are not aware in terms of marketing, is that Africa is one of the cheapest continents in terms of cost per click compared to Europe or the US. So just for a little bit of context for those who are not aware of what cost per click is, it's basically a metric that determines how much advertisers pay for the ads they place on website or social media based on the number of clicks the ad receives. So I compared 3 main African countries with the US, just so that you have an idea. South Africa, for example, has an average cost per click 55% less than the US average. Morocco has an average cost per click of 78% less than the US. And 3 is Kenya, that has an average of a cost per click of 74% less than the US. It's huge. And then one last element that I cannot not mention when we talk about Africa is videos. Marketing today is about providing the most personalized customer experience. That's really where marketing trends are headed, towards personalization. And videos are a great way to achieve this. So according to Forbes, 90% of customers use videos to help them with their buying decisions. Here are some top reasons why videos are a no-brainer for your marketing strategy. Number 1, they're easy to share. So your sales team, marketing team, engage clients, they can help spread the message. 2, better engagement. That 30-second video will have a bigger impact than the 20-page white paper. And that impact translates into engagement, better reaction from your prospective buyers. Number 3, videos will boost your conversions and therefore your sales. And according to Animoto survey of 500 marketers, videos has the best return on investment when advertising for the business. 4, videos will help create long-term brand awareness. Consumers are now customized to consuming video content, and videos give your company the chance to tell the story of your brand through colors, through story, through characters, etc. 5, videos are a great return on investments. today you no longer need expensive filming equipment. You can make compelling videos that boost your brand presence with not too much spend, both domestically and internationally. Once you have a fantastic video, put some subtitles or use a voiceover with the language of the market you're trying to reach, and this will allow you to reuse that video multiple times. And then the other part, I wouldn't consider them as negative points. I would actually say that it's maybe points that we should pay more attention to. So when we have an African website or run ads in Africa, so all the videos have to be mobile first, because as I mentioned earlier, most of the countries are very mobile oriented. And the load speed is also important to take into consideration, and they have to be culturally relatable. So meaning it's not recommended to use the exact same video that you have in the US. It has to be relatable to the African as well. And thank you. I will hand over now to Susanna to look at e-commerce trends and best practices.
Rita, thank you very, very much. Lots of information there as well, just about online marketing. And again, I'd like to just before I round up on e-commerce, if any of you are interested in learning more about online marketing, then that could be SEO, search engine optimization, social media marketing, account-based marketing, video marketing, all kinds of different things, and even just looking at your website and how you can change your website and upgrade it in order to be more relevant to your international audiences. Let us know. We're happy to again send you some resources or anything like that. If we can help, I'm very happy to do so. And again, thank you very much for replying to that poll. You're really great audience. Thank you. I want to close that poll, and then let's talk a little bit about e-commerce. And I guess one of the reasons why we all like e-commerce so much, especially I love e-commerce. One of the reasons is that I am able to see quantifiable return on investment. I know exactly what my website is bringing in, and that's a terrific feeling. Because once you build these things, you do the online market, but with e-commerce, no, you sales at the end of the day. It's also highly international and lends itself to anyone looking to grow their business, their sales, and their exports internationally. If you're looking to grow your sales internationally, globally, think about e-commerce. It's not just for B2C. B2B e-commerce is 3 times the size of B2C. So B2B is 3 times the size of B2C. And finally, it's demanded. It's people expect it. People expect to be able, more and more people expect to be able to buy online, or perhaps even if it's just request a quote. That is basically e-commerce without a payment gateway. So it really is something you need to be thinking about. And for Africa, it is one of the big last bastions. So a lot of us in the West do think, Africa doesn't have the money for this, but Rita was mentioning there's over 500 million people now on the internet throughout Africa. That's larger than than the U.S. population, for example. It has a very young population. A quarter of the population of Morocco is under the age of 18. Yeah, that's very young population. So they love technology. They're early adopters, and they go for the internet and e-commerce. The first is their highest priority. Online e-commerce B2C is estimated at something like $20 billion valuation at the moment. It's still really small, but at a population of 1.5 billion, it is growing very quickly. E-commerce here. This is a huge long graph, hard to read. So we put some arrows in the bottom. And it's kind of funny, in fact. The yellow arrow is the USA. To the left of the USA, in terms of people buying stuff online, is Southeast Asia, basically, and South America. So it's Chile, Mexico, Thailand, the Philippines, Malaysia. Far to the right, we have Nigeria, South Africa, and then Egypt, Kenya, Morocco, Ghana. I mean, these countries are tiny in terms of their, in compared to the big ones, in compared to the number of people buying online weekly. But, you know, a country like the USA is growing at 5, 6, 7% per annum in e-commerce. Still high growth, but single figures. African countries are growing 20% year on year, every year. You know, it's worth sort of thinking about these kind of curves. You're adding pretty well 1 million people, 50 million people per year on e-commerce in Africa. The point, though, about Africa e-commerce is there are some big differences. And one of the first things you're going to notice, certainly on the B2C side, which is important for anything you're doing on fulfillment, is that these local Africa-centric players, champions, the Africa e-commerce giants, we call them. Jumia, which I think started in 2006, it's actually a German company, headquartered in Berlin, but it is the big giant in Africa. 23 million visits a month. It's the only one which has a Pan-African business. It goes from Nigeria, which is by far the largest. It also operates in Egypt, Morocco, Kenya, Tunisia, South Africa. So it's really Pan-African, and it's the largest by far. But then there's also Takealot, Bitabuy, Mal, and so on. So there's a lot of these local giants. They're really important. The people will not reach directly for Amazon. They're going to go for Jumia first. The challenges, however, there are some big challenges. The first is payments. And although PayPal does exist there's a lot of Africa-led champions in that. And in a way, because a lot of people in Africa do not have access to a bank or do not have a bank account, fintech and financial and technology solutions, mobile-enabled solutions, were really very early on. M-Pesa, you might have heard of. It's the one that really sort of broke the ice. It's a online banking basically, and money transfer, originally in Kenya. But now, you know, you get your salary, you pay your bills, you transfer money between currencies through M-Pesa. It's been a great weapon against corruption as well. But all of these, PesaPal, you know, PesaPal is a great one for payment methods in Kenya as well. So there's just lots of them. You've got to choose the right one. DPO is direct pay online. It's all over Africa as well. It's all currencies, all payment solutions, used by a lot of B2B companies. So the payment gateway is going to be quite specific on your e-commerce. The next big challenge is deliveries. And Rita was saying how difficult the infrastructure was. And again, this is really hampering e-commerce in Africa. Remember, it's worth remembering, there's no national address system for most of these countries. It's not like you have, you know, number 36 East Drive. You know, there are no hardly street names. So how are you telling your delivery guy where to go? You know, it's interesting. And again, because of that, they've been quite innovative. There's even some geolocator solutions about this, so that once you log on and get something delivered to you, basically give a PIN, and you can then order again, and it comes to the same place. So, and then there's lots of solutions as well. You know, poor road networks means huge traffic jams, means delays, means cancellations. So a lot of delivery companies are going on with motorbikes, which is bodabodas. There's also, for example, in Rwanda, drones that deliver. So Rwanda has one of the biggest drone delivery systems in the world. The other big problem is fulfillment centers and poor cross-border e-commerce. So this means that it's sometimes difficult to get things quickly on your site. So challenges, payments and deliveries, local champions as well, but a lot of very innovative solutions. So e-commerce again is this emphasis of being relevant to your local buyer, being relevant to say, what are your pricing? What currency are you putting it in? How are you telling them about fulfillment? How are you capturing their address? All of those things, and making sure that you're really going global in a sense means going local, and so. But there is a good way to do it, and it has been done, and there's a well-trodden path. I think the important part with any e-commerce site as well is just building that trust, building the trust you need for the buyer's journey to end with a click, with not an abandoned cart, but with a click. And yes, I can deal with these guys. They do deliver in Africa. They do know how to do this in Africa. They have experience with this. So again, it's building the trust needed for that buyer's journey to end in a click the basket. So again, a local website, a local presence, all of that entails that. For us, it's quite a well-trodden path. It's a very, very, very mapped out process, which requires all kinds of, specifications, site maps, and the e-commerce enablement and design. And again, a lot of the e-commerce, like the online marketing, is the part of the online global programs and qualify for grants, for export grants in many U.S. states and some of the Canadian provinces. Few, where we've left a little time for questions. There's quite a lot of questions in there. Just quickly recapping sort of your takeaways. I wanted to say as well, in terms of latest trends, we talk a lot about the digital first generations coming through on omni-channel, how online business tools have to be totally customer centric. For that, Africa is absolutely the place where all those things apply. It is, many people are saying it is, the following decades, so the decades of Africa, as the population is set to double by 2050. And have some of the fastest growing economies in the world by 2030. So again, these are early adopters. These are very young populations who regard the internet as their top priority. It is the gateway, the key to education, job, payments, banks, everything, and it's all through a telephone. So again, just making sure that your online business development tools. There's no continent where it's more important than Africa. So those takeaways, again, Africa is online. Make sure that your websites and your online marketing assets are working as hard as they can for you. They should be delivering you leads. Takeaway number 2, that localized website, make sure it's working hard, that it's going to be your best sales rep. If you've got a distributor or local rep, that is the best tool you can possibly give your local distributor. It is where your prospective buyers will check you out. They'll say, is this a real company? Let me check out their website. Do they know what they're talking about? Do they know how to deliver what they say they do online? Let me check them out. I'm going to check out their website. And if it's not a good website, that reflects poorly on your brand. And just a reminder, what is a localized website? Lots of things, lots of techie things. But most of all, it's putting that buyer at the center and taking from their perspective from that. Rita's takeaway number 3, reach the right people with the right message at the right time. Otherwise, you just annoy your prospects. And you sort of go upon your database. You need to say in the way that they want, when they want, how they want. It's up to you figure out which platform they are. Just as we were showing you those buyer personas, figure out the platform that your buyers are on. Address that platform with the right message when they want. They can reach out to you with a clear message. If you want to learn more, there's a ton of stuff that you can download for free on our website. Our website is ibt.onl. If you go to the resources section, there's tons of stuff there that you can download and for free on online tools, on websites, and online marketing, on countries, and so on. So lots of stuff there. And again, we do have these online global programs which are designed for the mid-cap exporter, learning how to grow your business, grow your brand globally with the go global, go local message. Right, that was me. Right, we've got a lot of questions in. And actually, Scott, I've got just a quick one for you. Just come in. Where can I find the details of my local district export council?
Well, where could they find out more?
Yeah.
Oh well, there's the website nadec.org, and also anyone who is exporting that is familiar with their local foreign commercial service office. Every state has one, and the executive secretary of each of the local district export councils is the director of the U.S. Export Assistance Center. They call it the USIAC. So just finding out where your local one is, and this way you do a number of good things. You find out good things about the deck, but to build on your online strategy, as you've so ably presented today, they can point to certain markets where there are greater U.S. government resources that can extend your touch and your reach into your priority markets. And you've got 54 countries in Africa. Not all of them are the same, of course. And so you will have to prioritize where you want to go in. Business is still a contact sport, and at some point you want to leverage your online strategy with local partners. And part of those local partners can be the U.S. Foreign Commercial Service, which is an essential partner for the district export councils. So I would encourage you to reach out to the NADEC and to reach out to your local U.S. Export Assistance Center, which is the local U.S. arm of the Foreign Commercial Service. That's a one-stop shop, and you will not go wrong by going there.
Thank you very much, Scott. And actually, Heidi's just also put in a website, which I've shared in the chat box, everyone. usaexporter.org will also have the information, I think, that you're looking for on that.
Thank you.
And okay, just one about for Rita on marketing. You talked about language. What language do you recommend for your websites and marketing in Africa? Which languages?
Well, as you mentioned, Susanna, earlier, in Africa, they have over 75 languages, which have more than 1 million speakers. However, English is the most widely spoken language across the African continent, followed by French and Arabic. So I would say, depending on the region you're targeting, we would recommend having either an English or a French speaking website and running marketing ads in the same language as your website.
Okay. And similar, just on the online marketing side, Rita, are there particular platforms which work better than others? Are there particular platforms that you should prioritize to reach your audience?
Well, Facebook is definitely the most popular social media platform in Africa, but again, that depends on your business objective. LinkedIn is also a growing platform in Africa. If you are more B2B oriented, I would recommend it.
Okay, terrific. There's one about domain names, but we've mentioned them quite a bit already. It's really dependent on how, do you choose the big .Africa one, which is a whole continent, Africa one, or do you target a specific market? And that really depends on your business objectives. If you're looking for the the shotgun approach, really focused in on a single market, then we would recommend that you have a top level country domain name for that country rather than the Pan-Africa one. But remember also that you can always direct several domain names to one site. So you could have the .africa and, for example, a .co.ma for Morocco. So you could have both. That's just pretty good. I have one last question. I realize we're out of time, but I will answer this one as well. Where can I find out more about these online global programs? Again, I'll just put our website. If you go to our website, there is a page there about the online global programs by state, and each state has a different setup and such. So we would direct you to go to your local, your statewide export economic development agency, and drill down, or contact the local your local DEC if you're involved with them, or to find out. Or our website has a lot of information about them for that. I am very conscious of time because I do not want to. I've talked too much already myself, but I wanted to give a major thank you to Scott for joining us today. Scott Blackland on the board of directors of NADEC, and is a tremendous asset and a tremendous advocate of the small and mid-cap companies, exporters, and really the NADEC. I just love this notion of being an amplifier for all the mid-cap exporters of the USA. Terrific. Thank you so much, Scott. And of course, Rita, with your great knowledge of the African markets and the social media, the online marketing for it, and the overall presence of Africa. Thank you again for joining me today. And a big thank you for all of you for attending. Not easy to listen to webinars anymore, is it? We'd much rather get together. I wish this was like we could do this over lunch, but you know what? Webinars still work. Thank you all so much for joining, and we really appreciate it. Thank you all so much, and we will answer the other questions that you've added. We'll answer those separately by email about sub-Saharan Africa, about Western Union, about payout. We will answer those by email. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye, and see you online or in person. That'd be wonderful too. Take care. Happy exporting. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.